Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Britain's Hangout Hour, episode 155. I'm here with author John Davis. Davis? How do you pronounce it?
Yeah, Davies, David, how?
Davies. All
Yeah,
right.
Davies. Yeah, I'm easy though. So, how are you? Are you okay?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, just been I'll admit, I yesterday was a little busy on my end. I was at my job, and I'm like, oh yeah, I have that thing tomorrow. I gotta send that to him because Tuesday I'm always kind of fumbling around with like content and whatever, and also Thanksgiving in America is tomorrow. Now that and
Right.
I'm
Are you
I'm
all set for that? All sorted and prepped?
yeah, as much as I'll be. Yeah, I helped my mom move a really big carpet earlier, so that was fun. Yeah. Um. Yeah. So yeah, you've written a novella called Muscles. Though
Yes.
I first heard of you because Aaron or Aaron Hook, mutual
Yeah.
friend of ours. I know you're on his channel from time to time.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Good lad, Aaron. Do really enjoyable streams with him as well, discussing films.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of those, and
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting because self publishing is kind of blown up, at least on my side of the internet. But I haven't. I mean, I'm sure there's more than Muscles, but I haven't seen a lot of like crime novels. Like the only ones I've seen at least so far are yours and Nick Horvath's Sledge versus the Labyrinth.
Yeah.
I don't know if you read that, but
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's a great
or even
book.
a Hot Dose of Hell from Steve Stark.
Yeah. A hot dose is that's one of my favorite all time favorite horror novels, and it crosses over into a bit of crime as well, doesn't it? A
Yeah,
lot of
I
Steve
thought so.
tends to do that. So, yeah, really good.
It was
Have
kind
you
of
had him
funny.
on for a chat?
I talked to Steve about it. I'm kind. It kind of is like if Train Spotting turned into 28 Days Later, which is kind of funny because
Yeah.
they're both Danny Boyle movies,
Yes.
but very British. I remember from reading it.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. It's definitely got that. I think it very much harks back to a kind of British tradition of horror from the 80s, 70s, and 80s as well.
Yeah,
Clearly
has
identified
that
in
like
Britain.
grindhouse vibe to it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's I think in terms of other crime type novels independently published. Um, it's kind of crime action thriller, vigilante thriller, A Dangerous Man by J.L. Engel. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
I don't know if I have.
That's worth checking out because he's going to re-release that for a Black Friday deal.
Oh,
So
well, I'll have to.
go and check that out if you like vigilante thrillers. If you're a fan of any like the Matt Bolan novels or Garth Ennis's Punisher run,
Mhm.
you'll enjoy A Dangerous Man. So
Yeah, I
definitely check.
do. I do love me some Garth. Well, when Garth Ennis does the Punisher, especially,
Yeah,
he tends to do well.
yeah. Those Punisher Max runs
Yeah.
from what was that, like early 2000s, maybe something like that.
Mhm.
That was a really good run.
Mhm. Um. Yeah, it's But yeah, you wrote a novella. It's called Muscles. It's about I sadly haven't read it yet, but it's about a bouncer.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Um. From what I've heard, I think I watched you and Aaron talk about it a few weeks ago.
Okay, yeah.
Um, does he get in like an underground cage
No,
fight?
he's Muscle is about it's a veteran bouncer called Frankie who gets drawn into a feud with a gangster.
Oh,
The
yes.
feud gets
Okay.
out of hand, and then he challenges him to like settle things the old-fashioned way with a straightener, which is like a no rules, one-on-one street fight, and kind of winner takes all type situation.
Oh man. Yeah. No, I got it confused with Sledge because that's what Sledge versus the Labyrinth is kind of about. is
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right.
again, I don't know
Case
if I don't know if you read that, but it's
yeah,
um I read it earlier this year.
yeah.
It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
That's great how he has the different levels, doesn't he? That he has to
Hmm.
work, he's kind of fight his way through or work his way through. Yeah, really good sort of crime book with, I think, the same way that Steve's got the kind of horror with tinges of crime. You've almost got crime with tinges of horror with Sledge.
Yeah. Yeah, it was weird. I actually kind of got this because it's called the Labyrinth. I got kind of this
Mm,
almost like mythological, Theseus going
yeah,
down into the
yeah,
labyrinth to
yeah,
kill the Minotaur. A little
yeah.
bit. I don't know if that was Nick's
Yeah.
intention, but
I think so. I think he was. I think if you listen to him talk about how he's written Sledge and the character himself, he very much sees him as a kind of a mythological hero, from
mhm,
old. I think someone else described him as like Conan in a trench coat. I think one of the
mhm.
blurbs said, and I think that's an apt description for Sledge. Very much a modern day sort of Conan
Yeah,
figure.
I definitely got that vibe from when I was reading Sledge. I'm like, oh,
Mm.
he's like a. It kind of reminds me. I don't know if you ever read Sin City or watched the movie.
Yeah, yeah,
There's the line where I think it's Dwight says about Marv. He'd have been perfect as like a Roman legionnaire back in the
yeah,
day.
yeah,
He's kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
misplaced out of time. I kind of
Yes,
view that same thing with Sledge, though. Sledge is a bit more lighthearted, I guess, than
yeah,
he's not. I don't know. I don't know. I was about to say it does get pretty dark and nasty at points, but it's
yeah.
Nick has a lot more fun with it. I think sometimes Frank Miller gets a little lost in the machismo.
Mm. Yeah, he's not quite as. I don't think Sledge is quite as messed up as Marv, is he? In the,
No, no.
he's got all the abilities, but not quite as much of a mess.
Yeah, no. He's more functional in society.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he played um oh man, I forgot exactly what I was gonna say, but I think I compared him to like the Punisher and like Jack Reacher
Mm.
when I kind of talked about it on my channel. I'm actually hoping to get Nick back on soon, maybe to talk about it. We'll see. Haven't
Yeah,
heard
ask
back
him.
from him
Ask
yet.
him how he's getting on with the sequel. He's working on that at the moment, isn't he?
Mm. Yeah, possibly a Sledge movie, which that's crazy.
That sounds great. That's fantastic. If if he's got that going, that's an amazing achievement for an indie author. He's making some good moves, is Nick. So doing
Yeah,
well.
no, I mean, it's grown quite popular, which is why I ended up picking it up because I'm like, well, it's well, also it's like, well, again, there's not a lot of, I mean, again, I'm sure there's a good, I'm sure there's a solid market for crime novels on in the indie market, but I haven't seen a lot of them, so this sounds fun, and I ended up reading it and I had a good time with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the indie market seems to be more kind of suited towards fantasy, science fiction, and horror.
Mm-hmm.
To be fair, rather than the crime
Mm-hmm.
side of things. But I think you tend to find when you do find crime on the indie scene, it tends to be a bit more, a little bit broader in scope than say your standard kind of tortured detectives or
Mm-hmm.
the things that are filling the shelves on the mainstream and the traditional publishing. So you'll get the stuff that will hark back to the days of maybe Jim Thompson,
Mm-hmm.
those kind of like seedy, you know, true kind of like anti-hero type characters and people on the margins a little bit more
Yeah, it's
perhaps than you
funny.
will
It's
today.
funny you mentioned Jim Thompson. I read The Killer Inside Me a few years ago, and
Mm,
I remember just being really surprised at a lot of the stuff that he talked about in that book. I'm like, good lord, this was written in like the 50s, and
yeah,
they let
yeah,
him, like, he talked about like molestation and like BDSM and
yeah.
characters
It's
really really twisted. I'm like, man, I guess it's my theory is I guess it's because they thought crime was kind of like trash. They just let him do whatever he wanted. But I was like,
yeah,
man, like it was good. Yeah,
yeah,
it was good.
yeah. It's a really good book, isn't it? I read it probably that same sort of time as you. It was only about a year and a half ago. I think I picked that one up and read it.
Hmm.
And like I said, you almost kind of it's easy to miss some of the darkness, really, because you kind of read through it and go, "Did he just say what I thought he said?"
Hmm.
Because he's not particularly explicit with it. It's so matter of fact, the narrator's
Yeah,
voice that
exactly. That's what
you
threw
kind
me
of
off as well.
think
Because
back.
there's that part where he pulls off the scam to get
Yeah,
at the guy who killed his brother. Um, And he just matter of fact, he's like, yeah, I just walked in and shot him. And then the lady I was screwing around with, I shot her too and took the money. I was like,
yeah.
okay. Like, all right. Okay, Jim.
Have you read any other books by Thompson?
No, but I am gonna be reading a good bunch of crime books next year, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
see if I can sneak in some more Jim Thompson. I've heard The Getaway is really good.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good one. Getaway's good. I think I've not read it. I think it's is it Population
Oh yeah, I
28
had
or
some
something
friends who
like
really
that.
liked that book. I've heard it's similar to The Killer Inside Me,
Mm.
where the protagonist is not a nice person, but
Yeah,
he
yeah,
kind of pretends to be something he's not to be like more.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, no, it's but yeah, no, but yeah, no, it's I guess crime is kind of an untapped market in indie sphere.
Mm.
Again, I don't know. So, like, I'm curious though, like what drew you to like the crime genre?
I think it was. I suppose it has its origins back in the 90s
Mm-hmm.
for me. Um, that was when sort of, I suppose, like certainly in the UK anyway, and I think some of it come across from the States as well. It seemed to be a perfect moment for independent crime, both in film and in novels.
Mm-hmm.
Not long had Reservoir Dogs had been released, so that kind of promoted this big interest in crime films,
Mm-hmm.
and especially with knowing sort of Tarantino's influences when he was speaking about Reservoir Dogs, he was kind of calling back to older crime films like Kubrick's The Killing,
Mm-hmm.
Point Blank with Lee Marvin, all these films from the sort of 60s and 70s. That then increased a bit of an interest over here, so we started to see a bit of an increased independent film and crime films, particularly in the UK. And it also led to a lot of the re-releases of some classic crime novels. So the 90s, we had a lot of all the Richard Stark novels were republished in the UK, and some of the Ted Lewis novels. Have you heard of the film Get Carter?
Yeah, I actually
Yeah,
own that film. I haven't watched it yet because I'm like,
yeah. You need to watch it.
I've been
You need to
so
watch it.
bad at watching movies. I'm like, Get Carter, Michael Caine. This sounds gritty,
Hmm.
like British crime film. I'm gonna love this.
Do
I
it.
haven't watched it yet.
You will do it. One of my favorites. Yeah, and see if you can get hold of the book as well. The book's brilliant. It goes
um,
perfectly with the film.
I have read the first Richard Stark Parker book, which
Hmm.
that was another one I really liked. I really liked the economy of the language.
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
very direct.
Yeah. Yeah. His prose is very much like the character, isn't he?
Hmm.
You know, just straight to the point. Just moves through the story perfectly. I think 150 pages.
Yeah,
Most of
maybe a
those novels.
little more than that, but yeah, it's not
Yeah.
long at all.
That's all. You know, very sort of. You know, you kind of got in. They had the similar kind of structure all the time, didn't they? Where you had the kind of the setup, then the kind of flashback almost, then moving back forward again as
Hmm.
Parker trying to tracks down whoever's betrayed him this time around. But yeah, the language was perfect, and Stark was a bit of an influence on me as well, just generally with that writing, just that plain, straightforward
Hmm.
prose style. You know, it's perfect for crime.
Yeah, it's funny. I've written some stuff and people are like, "Yeah, you kind of have like this noir thing going." I don't. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I like a lot of crime stuff. That's not really my intention. I don't know why I do that, but thank you. I appreciate the compliment though. Like, I'll take it.
Have you published anything?
No, not yet. I'm published or I'm not published. I'm editing something right now, but I haven't put it out yet.
Yeah. Willing to talk about what it's about or any hints?
It is more of a fantasy novel, so I don't know if
Yeah.
it would be much interest for you, but it's about a guy who gets into a really bad situation and he's bailed out by a deal he makes with this other guy who's like, "Hey, if you go to this town and help me solve this problem, I'll let you go." It's kind of did you ever watch The Proposition, the Western movie?
Oh, no, don't think I've seen that one actually. I
Oh,
know the one you're talking about, but
yeah, no, it's kind of like that, though.
yeah,
The stakes aren't quite as high
right.
as in that movie. But yeah, that's pretty much what it's about, and then some supernatural weirdness happens. But
Sounds good. When do you plan on releasing it? Or
I am I've been busy with college, so I'm going to probably finish editing it in 2026 and see if I can put it out then. So we'll see.
yeah,
Because I'm like, I don't think a mainstream publisher will take to this. I'll take my chances with self pub. So we'll see.
what makes you think the mainstream won't look at it?
Well, it takes place in a world that's inspired by like colonial times, and there's
Hmm.
also like it's not a very long book. It's like small town mystery. So I don't know if people are gonna take that. Maybe they would. I'd be very surprised.
Yeah. I mean, I get where you're coming from if you think about what you said there. It's inspired by sort of colonial type times, and
Hmm.
perhaps the mainstream, the trad pub, are not really politically aligned with perhaps seeing a story set in that environment. I think to sort of put things kind of lightly. But yeah, indie's the way to go. To be fair, if you want to just write something on your own terms and tell the story that you want to tell without any kind of interference and let it find its own audience, then indie's the way.
Hmm.
No gatekeeper required.
Yeah,
That's
no,
it. You don't have to jump through.
it's something I've gone back and forth on because it's like I'm only 24, so it's not like no offense to the older people who've done indie. I mean, some of my friend Philip Chase put out his a Dan trilogy. It's been wildly successful, and
Yeah,
even got translated to Italian recently, which is crazy.
nice.
Um, but yeah, I'm just kind of like and I also have a lot of friends who've done self publishing, and none of them have said like they've had like bad experiences with it. So I'm like, I don't know, maybe we'll see.
Yeah, it's. I think it's like anything else. It depends on what you want to get out of it.
Hmm.
That's it. And if it is writing a book on your own terms and getting something out there physically that exists, that has a life of its own, then that you created yourself without any other interference or having to tone anything down or cut anything out, then it's perfect for that. Absolutely perfect.
Yeah, no, that's what I've heard. I mean, I don't know if something like a hot dose of hell would find I don't know if it would find a home in traditional publishing, for sure.
I think it would have done in the 80s, 90s, maybe as up to maybe early 2000s. But yeah, now,
Yeah, I was thinking,
unfortunately
yeah,
not.
maybe maybe if he came around the same time as like a Irvine Welsh, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But that shows how that's definitely a reflection on the change in the publishing market as opposed to the quality of Steve's writing at all. It's just the fact that the market, or I don't think the market has changed. I just think the people that are running it have, and they just find that sort of thing unacceptable nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, his I'll say lack of fondness for the woke crowd, if you want to call it that. I don't think that would fly very
Yeah,
well with
yeah,
modern publishers.
yeah. Yeah, I think some of those people have probably recognise themselves in some of those characters and be like, no.
We don't like what this says about us. Yeah, no, yeah, it was a fun book though. I enjoyed it. I was kind of like, man, it's kind of like if
Right.
Irvine Welsh wrote a horror novel. Though I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know if he has, but um,
Well,
some
I
of
don't
the
know. Train Spotting's pretty
I
horrific
was
at
about to say,
times,
yeah,
isn't it?
Train Spotting's pretty horrific at times. Also, filth gets pretty disturbing
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Hot Dose needs to be made into a film as well. That'd be make a perfect, good old fashioned British indie style horror film.
yeah, that would be
We need
fun.
to see we need to
It
see Fred and Pinky on the screen.
That would be fun. I don't, I you know, have you seen the Reacher TV show?
I've only seen bits of it. Never actually sat down and watched the whole thing.
Oh man, there's this big like Dutch guy who was like one
Hmm.
of he was like the main like muscle for the boss basically character. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, when I was reading Pinky, I thought of him. I was like, he'd be very good Pinky.
I think I know who you're talking about. I think he's been in a couple of other shows as normally like some big brute. He's
He's also like a
like,
cosplayer too in real life, and that's pretty
is he?
awesome. Yeah. He's done like Kratos from God of War. I'm like,
Yeah,
that's
I can
fun.
see that. Yeah, I can see how he'd fit that one.
Um, but yeah, I'm like, yeah, he'd be a fun Pinky.
Yeah, I'm not sure I see as Pinky. I think Yeah, I don't know. Don't know. I quite picture as Pinky. So I always picture him as quite being probably about the same sort of size, bald, loads of tattoos.
Mhm.
That's how I kind of see him. But I can't think of an actor that quite fits specifically.
I sometimes think of actors though. There are some characters I've read where I'm like I can't really picture like I just kind of picture how the
Yeah,
book describes it.
yeah,
So I don't know. It's yeah it's yeah it's 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 quite something. But yeah, no, I like um a lot of crime stuff, and I noticed
mm,
on BookTube specifically, there weren't really a lot of people talking about it. So I was like, I guess
mm.
I'll throw my hat into the ring. A
Yeah.
little
And I
bit.
think I've seen you talk about some Dennis Lehane stuff before.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Like yeah, yeah. Which
Yeah.
ones do you like of his? What's your favourite ones of his work?
My favorite of his is Darkness Take My Hand, which is his
Mm,
the second of his Kinsey and Gennaro books that he did.
yeah.
I really love how he kind of S.A. Cosby put it quite well when he said it's a beautifully written descent into hell.
Mm,
And I'm like that's probably the best way someone could describe it. And I mean, Mystic River is great. I read it a few years ago and it's stuck with me ever since.
mm.
But most of his books are really good. I think all of them are worth a read. I'm actually hoping to read Small Mercies before the end of the year. So, which is
Yeah.
his newest one.
That's good. Yeah, that's really good.
I was about to say I don't know if you what Lahane you've read, so
Yeah.
I don't want to be presumptuous.
Yeah, I've not read as much as I'd like. I've got a couple on the shelf to read. I've read Small Mercies, The Drop.
Drop's good.
Um,
I also really like
yeah,
the movie.
not The Drop.
That's
Yeah,
actually
the movie's great.
that's how I was introduced because I was a big James Gandolfini fan. I really liked The Sopranos, and he was in that movie. I'm like, oh, I'll check this out. And I was like,
Yeah,
oh, there's a book, and then I read the book, and I'm like, this is fantastic. Just kind of set me off on that
yeah.
on that kind of journey, if you will.
The book's got quite an interesting journey as well, hasn't it? Because he wrote a short story first, didn't
Hmm.
he? Then the screenplay. Then he novelized and expanded the screenplay, didn't he?
Yeah, he
A
did.
little bit.
Yeah, it was a weird journey, but
Mm,
it's a really um kind of sad. It's very underrated. I think one of
yeah.
Tom Hardy's better performances. Really, really well. He's not been bad in a lot of movies I've seen him in. I'm still
It's a good fit for Hardy, though, isn't it? That kind of story, I think, and that kind of character is quite a good fit for him.
I think it's one of his better performances. You know, he doesn't do anything super big. You know, he's very like
Mm,
quiet and reserved, and he does it very
mm.
well.
Have you seen a film called Lock with Tom
Yes,
Hardy?
yeah, that's a really good
Yeah,
one.
yeah, similar sort
I'm
of thing,
quite
isn't it?
partial to Bronson myself. I
Yes,
love that
yeah,
film.
Bronson's good.
But I do think Locke is really good. It's just I had a friend who described it kind of like it's like a stage play.
Mm,
I'm like, that's fantastic. I love that description. It is like that. Um,
yeah, those kind of like one person sort of films or plays that they're always the most interesting, I think. And that Locke was just a really good character piece, wasn't it? I think it
mhm.
showed Hardy, like you said, that he's not doing anything big, he's not doing anything sort of showy, just very quiet character moments, a little bit like his character in The Drop.
Yeah, he's kind of like unraveling because he's like,
Mm,
I mean, he's not a bad guy or anything. I mean, he is very flawed, but you know, he's a guy who wants to do better in a
yeah,
sense.
yeah, and he sort of do the right thing in that particular story, wasn't it? You know,
Yeah, he
both
made a bad
professionally and
decision, but he's
personally.
trying to make like the right
Yeah,
decision
the,
out of this
the
bad.
best he can do out of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. It's a really good movie. It's another underrated one.
yeah.
He's in a good couple of like underrated gems. I find he
Mm.
tends to. I've heard he's good in a Layer Cake. I haven't seen that one, but it seems like something I would enjoy.
Yes, you're like Layer Cake. He's in. Yeah, he's only got a small part in that. He's not. It's more Daniel Craig's film, Layer
Oh,
Cake,
mm-hmm.
definitely, but definitely worth a watch. And I don't know if you'd be able to get hold of it. I don't even know where you'd find it now. There was a series back in I don't know, 2008, 2009, called, I think it was called The Take, like a 4-part crime series,
Mm.
where he plays a gangster,
Oh.
Tom Hardy. And it's more about the sort of the progression, him and I think it's his cousin, from sort of being younger men, how they get into crime and how they sort of progress and how they build an empire and how it all falls apart. And it's brutal, some of this, not necessarily just the violent side of it, but it's quite hard. It's quite hard watch some of the scenes, especially in the showing how this relationship breaks apart and the jealousies and sort of interactions that they have with their wives. And so
I'll have
highly
to
recommend, really, I'd recommend that. I can't
I'll have
see
to
them.
find that somewhere. Sounds
Yeah,
kind of.
have a look for
I've
that if
tried to
you've
find
seen it.
some like British shows, and they're just really hard to get in America for whatever reason.
Mm,
Um, though
mm.
I've seen some streaming apps have kind of come around, have made it easier.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's interesting. You know, I find that British have kind of. I don't want to say co-opted because that sounds bad, but they have because I kind of view like hard-boiled crime as kind of more of an American invention.
hmm,
But I do think the British have taken it and added their own spin to it quite admirably. Like I like what's the last like I like some of Guy Ritchie's films come to mind.
yeah, yeah. And I think Guy Ritchie's kind of tapping into a tradition from certainly the 70s, when we had films like Get Carter, The Long Good Friday,
Oh yeah,
Villain.
The Long Good Friday. How did I forget
Yeah,
about that? That's an amazing movie. Bob
yeah,
Hoskins is
I know
amazing.
that.
It's
What a
weird. I watched
performance
that
all the way
film
through.
on a whim one evening
Yeah,
because I was on HBO Max. I had HBO Max at the time, and it was on there. And I'm like, ah, this looks interesting. I'll have to. I think this was during COVID, so I
yeah,
watched it, and yeah, I was transfixed. Bob
yeah.
Hoskins is outstanding in that film.
Yes, yeah, it drives that film, doesn't he? Such a, what a performance. That's like one of his absolute best, I think. And that character's one of the absolute best, I think, to see in a British crime film or any kind of film, to be fair to that. So I
Yeah,
think,
like I also like in that film like there is kind of a sensitivity to that character in a
mm,
way. He doesn't show it very often because being a gangster, you have to be really hard in that
yeah,
life. But there is that sense that like he does care about some of the people who are under him, even
mm,
though so he's not just like a bulldog character, even though he is.
yeah,
And of course, the
yeah,
end of the movie where he just goes through like 3 reactions in like a minute, and you're like, whoa.
yeah. Everything's there, isn't it? And
Hmm.
have you read the screenplay at all?
No, I haven't.
So that last shot where you see all that emotion, it's literally just described as Harold's face. That's it. It just goes Harold's face. That's it. And that's the final line in the script.
Yeah, also young Pierce Brosnan's in the movie. That's pretty
Yeah,
funny. It's kind of
yeah,
funny some of the familiar faces because the guy from who played the main bad guy in Raiders of the Lost Ark is in like the first like 10 minutes of the
yeah,
movie. I'm like, hey, I know that guy.
yeah, yeah. He's what is it? It was Harold's best mate, wasn't he, or something?
Yeah,
He was cut up about him being got stabbed to death in a swimming pool, I think it was, or
yeah,
something.
yeah. I'm
Yeah,
like, oh yeah, I know that guy. Oh look, there's
yeah,
Helen Mirren too. Cool.
yeah. And it's funny when you think there's Helen Mirren and Pierce Brosnan in that gangster film, and they've just recently been in something called Mobland.
Oh
Have you
yeah,
seen that one?
I
That's
haven't seen it yet, but I think Tom Hardy
yes,
full
yeah, Tom
circle. I
Hardy
think he's
again
in that too.
in that. Yeah, very well worth watching. Really good series.
Yeah, but I do think the British have kind of taken the hard boiled tradition and have done it very
Mm.
well. And
Mm.
their own. I think every culture that I've seen has their unique take on kind of the hard boiled crime
Yeah,
story.
yeah. I think I suppose the British tradition is I think a lot linked or has a lot of crossover with what they used to call the kitchen sink dramas, essentially. So
Yeah.
you're kind of looking at the realities of life. There will be some level of social commentary on there just about society as a whole and how there's very much an aspect of the sort of working class communities and life within I think British crime. I'm not sure what the American style is. I think that seems to be more about the individualist, perhaps. A lot more about
A
individualism.
bit, yeah, yeah. Also like urban decay as
Mm,
well. If you watch something like
yeah,
The Wire or The Shield, which I
yeah,
mean, I call them noir. I'm sure people will probably quibble with that. I don't know if you've ever watched either of those shows. I think The Shield is more noirish
mm,
than The Wire. The Wire is
yeah,
more like politically driven. Well, I, oh oh, are you there?
yeah. I think yeah, still there. Yeah, lost you for a second there.
Oh, that was weird. I don't know what happened there. Probably have to cut that part out. I was saying, I say I don't know if you watched like The Shield or The Wire, but I find The
Yeah.
Shield is a bit more like noirish than The Wire. I think is a bit.
Mm,
The Wire is it is a crime show, but it's more like a political show.
yeah, yeah,
Which I think noir is a very political genre in general. So I mean, that's kind of like that's not really. So I guess it is noir in that sense.
yeah, yeah. I think maybe the politics noir are almost about individual politics
Mm,
sometimes to a degree. It's on that kind of micro individualistic level, or at least very small community level, as opposed to maybe quote unquote political shows of today where they try and force feed you a big, kind of global talking point
mhm.
sort of issues. But yeah, I get what you mean about The Wire. I think that was very much almost that was more just of I'd say a social drama with
Yeah,
crime elements to a degree.
yeah.
It's very, very good, and the way they moved around the city from
Hmm.
season to season, looking at the different aspects of it, I thought was, that's quite different. I remember being a bit frustrated. I think by the time we got to the fourth series, I wanted more of the crime stuff, and
Yeah,
it's like, hang on,
yeah.
we've moved on to the public school system now. What's going on? But then I quite liked it
I was about
actually
to say
because it was more,
I thought the school stuff was some of the most moving stuff of The Wire.
mm, yeah, yeah,
I do think in season 5 they kind of jumped the shark a little bit, especially towards the end.
yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a great show. But yeah, I see what you mean. It's I mean, in America we like our freedom.
Mhm.
We don't like being told what to do. So that makes sense. I'd say it's a bit, at least what I've noticed in like from British hard boiled stuff to American. There is kind of a sense of romance in American hard boiled stuff that
Mm.
isn't there in British. You guys are more like you guys are. I thought America was hard bitten, but you guys are more hard bitten than Americans. I guess we
Yeah,
learned it from somewhere.
yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think of some examples that might disprove that, but yeah, I genuinely can't. I don't think. I think even if you were to look at Chandler's work and Philip Marlowe,
Hmm.
you know, even though it's not a romance as in the genre itself, but I think Marlowe is a romantic character. He
Hmm.
believes in, he has these ideals. He does believe in a good, in romance, in having a good heart and so on. I think that's exhibited throughout his deeds within the novels. Whereas if you were to look at, say, something like when you get around to reading a Ted Lewis novel, the writer of Get Carter,
Hmm.
or read GBH by Ted Lewis, there is no romance in that novel
Yeah, I was
whatsoever.
about to say, yeah, in British crime
Darkest
films,
books going.
unless it's like Guy Ritchie, and even Guy Ritchie can get pretty nasty at points. But yeah, in a lot of British crime films, they're like, nah, these guys are not. They'll shoot you for a buck.
Yeah. Actually, no, I can think of one. I can think of one that maybe disprove that slightly. It's probably the exception to the rule. Sexy Beast.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I haven't seen it, but I know what you're talking about.
yeah. So you've got Gal and so Ray Winston's character and his wife Dee Dee. So
Mm.
Alison Redman. There's definitely a romance element there, and a lot of talk about the kind of redemptive power of love, I suppose. Really.
Hmm.
So in amongst all the other stuff that goes on, which is very hard edged. And so
I've heard it's also
one.
like really homoerotic at points. I'm like, this is interesting. You know, I'll have to watch it.
You could probably,
It's like
find that if you look for
subtextually
it, I think.
from what I've heard. I don't think it's like part
Yeah,
of the plot.
yeah. If you could definitely interpret. I can see how some people could interpret some aspects of that film, especially in the whole relationship between Ben Kingsley's character and Ray Winston's,
Hmm.
and the
Which like
demands that he has on him.
which you know, hard boiled. There's some like actors who are like made for hard boiled like stuff, and like Ray Winstone, man, like he's just
Yeah.
like, yeah, just throw him in all the hard boiled
Mm.
movies. He was in The
Look,
Departed. He had a brief part in The Departed. He was really good in it.
yeah, he was good in that. Have you seen Scum?
No, I haven't.
Have you heard of that one at all? One of his earlier works.
I don't know actually.
Right.
I don't think
So it's
so.
set in. You might be able to find that on DVD somewhere. It might be knocking around over that way. It's a drama set in what was called a borstal in the UK. So like a young offenders
Oh.
facility. So
Mm-hmm.
juvenile prison, I
Mm-hmm.
suppose, is the way to look at it. So this was where kids around about the ages of sort of 16 were put in before they went to, if they couldn't be sentenced to go to an adult prison.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about the brutality of the system and essentially a revolt against that system. You got a lot of good British actors in that film as well, alongside Ray Winston. Phil Daniels is in it. Sean Chapman from who played Frank from Hellraiser, he's
Oh
in it.
yeah.
Yeah, so lots of fun spotting a couple of sort
I'll
of
have to
familiar
find that
faces.
one.
Yeah. Again, it was originally done as a BBC play on
Mm.
television, but then banned. I think it's banned before it even got shown. I think it
Oh
was banned,
no.
withdrawn.
I
So the
guess I
director,
guess they were saying too much truth, I guess.
I think so. They didn't like they certainly didn't like the criticism of the system then. So I think then he remade it as a cinematic release, and then years later the original TV drama was broadcast on television over here. So yeah,
Hmm.
it's got an interesting story behind that one, but highly recommended if you can find that anywhere.
Yeah, I'll have to find that. I'm always again, I kind of like how the British do hard boiled.
Mm.
Again, there's kind of a lack of uh, what I mean by romance. I mean like you know, it's not idealized if for lack of
Yeah,
a.
yeah. There's very little sentimentality
There's no
in
sexiness to it.
yeah, it's all a bit sort of down and dirty, and if you read some of the stuff from the 70s and the 80s, you can probably smell the cigarette smoke and just these dingy, grimy kind of, you can feel the dirt
Which
under your
like
fingernails.
there's some of that in America as well, you know, like
Yeah,
you know, if you get someone like, you know, James Ellroy, who's just not at
mm,
all sentiment, or well, I don't want to say he's not at all sentimental. He does have emotion in his work, but
yeah,
or I should say he has no illusions about, you know, power and whatnot.
yeah. It's I like the Underworld USA trilogy.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Is
be reading American Tabloid next year.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great book. That I remember reading that one. I flew through that novel. Just such I wouldn't say an easy read, but such with Ellroy's style. He packs so much into a page. Those kind of, like, I think that's 500-600 pages.
Hmm.
Just flew by. Really good. Yeah, really good
Yeah,
series of books.
it's funny. I read I've read 3 of the 4 LA Quartet books. I
Mm,
read The Big Nowhere finally this year, and it's a really good book.
mm.
My first one, oddly enough, was LA Confidential, which I generally try to tell people now it's probably not a great idea to start with that one first. Because I saw the film and I'm like, oh, this film is fantastic.
Yeah.
And then I read the book and I'm like, whoa. I don't know if you've read the book or seen the movie. I think
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
uh,
Both. So I think I saw. I can't remember which way around. I think I might have read some of the book first
mhm.
and then seen the film, then went back and read the book a bit later
Yeah,
and finished.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I know it's I like to call his style grab him by the throat and throttle him,
Mm,
type of style where it's
yeah.
very stripped back, but it's kind of like it's
Yes.
real stylized too. It's really weird. Can't really describe it.
Yeah, he's definitely got a style of all of his own, isn't he? That I think other people have tried to imitate and maybe not succeeded. But he seems to have gone to more of a what I'd call a more mainstream style with some of his later works. They
Hmm.
seem to be a little bit more conventionally written, and I kind of miss some of the real stripped down, just nasty kind of like just punch in the face, sort of straight to it text of those earlier sort of novels, or that middle period novel, I suppose.
Yeah, like I am curious, like like why do you think that style like works with like hard boiled, rather it be like books or
Um,
well, I guess movies aren't because you watch a movie, but
yeah. I think it works perhaps because I think it perhaps suits the maybe the reality of the characters,
hmm.
just that blunt to the point language that's there. The characters of let's say Ellroy, for example. You Pete Bondurant from American Tabloid,
Hmm.
um,
I've heard he's
or
kind of.
any.
I do hear he is the show stealer in that book.
Yeah, yeah, great character. But I suppose all of the guys of say Elroy's books are essentially sort of men of action.
Hmm.
They don't think too much about what they do, as in not that they don't think about the consequences, but they are there to do a job. They get
Hmm.
on with that job. There's very little self-reflection in there. There's very little need for flowery language because it just wouldn't suit that character's outlook, I don't think, or that
Hmm.
vocabulary that they would perhaps have at the time. And I think that perhaps applies to a lot of hard-boiled crime. Not that it can't be beautifully written, because it can, in a very stripped down haiku like poetry type
Yeah.
sense of view to it, but you're not going to have some sort of gangland hitman waxing lyrical about the scenery here and the way that this doing this job makes him feel. It's going to be, well, he's put a gun to someone's head and that's that.
Well, yeah, I think that's why I like noir over something like I mean there's the other great British mystery tradition in like the Agatha Christie
Mm,
manner. Which don't get me wrong, I love the Murder of the Orient Express. That's a great crime novel. But
mm.
I don't know. I kind of I don't know what it is. I just like that kind of dirtier, grimier crime more. It feels
Yeah,
more
yeah,
it feels more authentic to life to me.
yeah. Same here with that. I mean, I like a good kind of clever locked room mystery,
Hmm.
something like that, as much as anybody else, but probably more to watch on as a film than read.
Hmm.
Perhaps I like like you say, I like the kind of down and dirty type crime going forward. I mean, talking about Elroy stuff as a maybe an example of I would say a successor or something you might enjoy. Have you read Run by Douglas E. Winter?
No, I haven't.
Check that one out. That's
I will add that.
yeah, add that
Douglas
to
E.
the
Winter.
list.
Okay.
Yeah, if you like Elroy and that kind of hard edge, just propulsive crime novel, check it out. It's the only novel he's written. He's largely known as a critic and an interviewer. He's written several books about Clive Barker and Stephen King,
Oh,
and I
really?
think I think he put together a couple of anthologies around horror. So this is, as far as I'm aware, it's the first and only novel he's written, and that come out 20 years ago. And I've been wanting him to write something else ever since, because it's a great book, really good book about
I'll have to pick that up.
yeah, check it out. It's about gun runners. So
Oh, yeah. Okay.
and
Yeah.
a kind of gun run that goes wrong, and it's very much written in that kind of fast-paced, hard-edged, quite unique sort of style, all from a first-person point of view,
Oh,
from a
interesting.
character who's not a nice guy. So
Yeah.
have a look. Or he's not, he says himself in it. You should understand by now, I'm not the good guy. There's a line in the book, something along those lines with it. So yeah,
That
check
that
that
kind of
one.
reminds me of this film. It had Mel Gibson in it. It's actually, funnily enough, kind of going back to Richard Stark. It's kind of an unofficial adaptation of The
Yeah,
Hunter. I'm forgetting the name of it.
payback. That
Payback.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It literally says on the front of the movie, it's time to root for the bad guy or something.
that's it.
I I've heard Point Blank is also kind of a unofficial adaptation of The Hunter, because
Yeah,
I guess Richard
yeah,
Stark was like, if you're gonna make one movie, you're gonna make all of them, and they're like, no.
yeah. I think he's only. I think there's been a couple of adaptations of his earlier work, and he didn't. I'm not sure if it was Donald Westlake, Richard Stark, who vetoed it, but they never used the name Parker in the original one. So the character in Point Blank was called Walker, I think. Payback, I think he was called Porter. So they're always kind of, not quite their sort of names. I think they've just done they've not just done a film with Mark Wahlberg playing Parker. I'm sure I've seen that on Netflix. I'm
Oh, I
like,
think
what
that's Spencer. I haven't read it, but I think that's
was it,
Spencer.
Spencer? Right. I thought they'd done a Parker one with Wahlberg at one point,
Wow,
like a Parker and what Stark's? No, it's not Richard Stark's character. It's writing as Donald E. Westlake. Is it Grolberger? I think there was another character in the Parker novels, perhaps,
Oh,
who pops up. He's another thief. I think I've got a vague recollection of that. So,
yeah,
but yeah, that's a casting misstep if ever there was one.
yeah. I kind of going back to the part. I think Mark Wahlberg's best role was playing the cop in that movie. He's
In The
really good.
Departed. Yeah, yeah. They often say about. I mean, Mark Wahlberg. I think it's a bit. People have said he's a good actor when he has the right director pushing him, but otherwise, if he's allowed to coast, he'll coast. Which I don't know if that's necessarily fair about him, but they're essentially saying he's a bit lazy unless he's got the right script and the right director to sort of guide the right performance out of him. Because I think some of his stuff he does is really, really good. The
Yeah,
Departed, one of them.
I think he has talent. Like I
Yeah,
don't know if you ever
absolutely.
watched The Fight that he did with.
Yeah,
I know Christian Bale kind of stole that movie, but he was
yeah,
very good in that movie too.
yeah. I think I liked him in Pain and Gain as well. You seen that one?
I haven't seen that. I know what you're talking about though. That's the one he did with The Rock, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a bonkers film, but when you
I'll
actually
admit it.
read,
I'll admit I thought it looked kind of stupid, so I didn't watch it. But I've heard it's like delightfully fun, so maybe
yeah,
I'll watch it.
yeah. If you can find have a look for the original article as well, if you can. I can't. I'll try and think. I think it's been published, I believe, as an ebook. The original newspaper article about this Sun Jim gang. And if you read that, you're like, that's like a piece of noir, because then you start thinking, yeah, I shouldn't be laughing at this film because what those guys did was awful.
I'll have to find that
Absolutely
article then.
appalling. Yeah, absolutely appalling. So it's it's worth a read and then compare it to the film.
Uh, I think also because I've seen some other interviews with you, but I've also on Goodreads, and Goodreads can be kind of a hassle to go through at times because it's a bit outdated. I'll just be honest. But you've written poetry as well.
I have written poetry, but that's not me on Goodreads. There's another John Davies who's got some poetry books out.
Oh
So
man.
yeah, so yeah, that's somebody else. I don't, that's not me. So yeah, I've published a couple of bits in some online magazines and just write for, sometimes post the odd bit on Twitter. I might well put a book out at some point of poetry once I've built up enough of it or decide something's worthy of doing. But yeah, that's not me. But,
Oh, okay. I was
do like a
about
bit of
I was
poetry.
about to say like, dang, you've put out a lot of books, man. But
No, I'm perhaps one of the slackest persons going in terms of books. I've got a lot of it like half finished and so on, but I'm not putting anything out for ages now.
yeah, no, it's it's interesting because I kind of going back to Ellroy. I'm actually friendly with some like scholars of Ellroy who've done like written work of his.
Yeah.
And he apparently also really likes poetry as well. That inspired him when he's written stuff.
Can see it from you can see it from that stripped down.
Mm-hmm. And I think
style.
there is kind of a poetry to the language of like hard boiled fiction.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. You look at somebody like Chandler. That's some of the best prose going. I know he can sometimes focus a little bit too much on. I think maybe a little bit too much on scene description. You can absolutely tell exactly how a room's been decorated by the time you read like one of his novels. But just in terms of his dialogue and how Marlowe describes characters and the similes that he uses, it's absolutely pure poetry. And Ellroy's got some pure poetry in his works as well.
Yeah, I feel kind of embarrassed that I haven't read Chandler yet. I'm hoping to rectify that in 2026 because I'm going to be reading some kind of classics. So
Yeah.
I have the Maltese Falcon back there.
Yeah. I've read that one. Have you started that one yet?
No, I haven't started it yet. I've which was turned into a movie with Robert Mitchum, Friends of Eddie Coyle.
Oh, yeah. George Higgins, is it?
Yeah.
George Higgins?
Yeah. Couple others. Like a newer one, Tana French. I haven't read her yet. I want to. Bunch of other people. Hopefully I'll sneak some Chandler in there. I know that there's not like an order to.
Yeah, you could read. Yeah, there's not one that I don't think there's any that reference the others at all. I read them out of order, and it certainly doesn't impact on your enjoyment of them at all. So yeah, there's no references to. No, I don't think there's any references between the books at all.
Yeah, or like I'd like to try like Ross McDonald. I haven't. It's funny. I watched the Paul Newman movie where he plays his character, though for some reason it's not the character's name. It's they kind of changed it probably for legal reasons. I thought it was fine, but I've heard his books are really good. I'm like, I gotta catch up on that.
Yeah, I haven't read any of Ross McDonald's ones. Have you read any John D. McDonald at all?
No, but I have friends who really love the Travis McGee. I actually own some of the McGee novels. Maybe I'll sneak those in as well. I've heard those are good.
Yeah, but I've only read the first Travis McGee one. That was good, very enjoyable. So I'll probably be keeping an eye out here and there for the rest of the series. And just pick on them when I get to it.
Yeah, I know Stephen King really liked him. I think actually they were friends at at one point.
He's talking about writing style. There's an article called Creative Trust by John D. McDonald that's very good about talking about how much description to put into a scene essentially. And he talks about, I think if I remember rightly about the article, he talks about the creative trust between you as the writer and the reader, and sort of giving them just enough so they can fill the rest in themselves, but not too much so they don't have to do any work at all. So it's quite an interesting. It's very good as a stylistic. He gives examples in there about how much description works and why it works the way it does.
Yeah, like Elmore Leonard. I've read a few of his Western stories, which I really enjoyed. I like his dialogue quite a bit, which I know everyone kind of likes his dialogue, but my friend's like, you should read Rum Punch. And I looked it up. I'm like, this is Jackie Brown. And he's like, yeah. I was like, I've seen that movie. And he's like, yeah. And that was it. He's like, still read it. And I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
But
have you read any George Pelecanos at all?
No, but I'm going to. That's another guy I'm going to read next year. I've dang it! I picked up The Man Who Came Upstairs. I own that one. I'm gonna read it next year.
Yeah, that's good. That's have a look. I mean, most of his work's top quality. Pelecanos. I've read a bad one yet. So any of them you can sort of dip into, but he has done a couple of, I think 3 series.
Yeah, I was about to say I knew him. I know him from The Wire because he worked on The Wire for a long time.
Yeah. I think what is it? There's 4 different novel series. I think he's done. So you might have to make sure. I think you'd have to read them in order if you pick them up. But if I remember right, the series are only about 3 or 4 books long anyway, so you don't have to read like 7 different books.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying about Pelecanos in particular, like because I go to bookstores a lot, look around, and they don't usually have them. I kind of happened upon The Man Who Came Upstairs at a Half Price Books where I was at, which is like kind of a I don't want to say it's not a thrift store, but it's like a classier kind of thrift store. It's where like you can give stuff to, Anyway,
yeah,
I found it. I'm like, I got to pick this up, and then I because I wanted to read Pelecanos for a long time, and I looked to see if it was a part of a series, and it wasn't. I'm like, okay, all right, I can do this. So yeah, hopefully I'll get around to that. I know Pelicanos is I know he's considered very very good.
Mm.
One of the better crime writers living today. So
Yeah, definitely. Like if you like The Wire, if you like that kind of character-driven uh, social drama crime,
mhm.
then yeah, you'll like Pelicanos, I think.
Yeah, I should. I don't see why I wouldn't like him. It's um yeah, it's yeah, even you got a couple of crime writers to work on that show. I've wanted to check out, like Richard Price.
Mm.
And a lot of people really like Clockers. I have a couple friends who love Clockers. He's like, "Hey, Britton, you should read that." And I'm like, "Yeah," and I haven't done it yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't read any Richard Price. I've heard good things about him though, and I can remember when Clockers came out, the film, and also people talking about the book
Hmm.
as well. Um, but yeah, not read any of his work at all.
I haven't either. I just know like you know what's it's interesting because crime has kind of a interesting relationship in literature anyway that I've noticed. You know, as a genre, it's I mean, it did kind of start out kind of like something like science fiction or fantasy and even horror, where it's kind of, you know, wasn't really taken as seriously at first, and then it's kind
Mm.
of, you know, grown over the years. But crime is particularly interesting because there's a lot of people I've noticed, like, you are considered like capital L literary writers who have been impacted by like crime literature.
Mm.
Like Michael Chabon is a big Raymond Chandler fan, for
Mm.
instance, and I think Saul Bellow even called like Elmore Leonard one of the best dialogue writers he'd ever seen. So
Mm.
I just find that fascinating. I don't know what you think about all this. I don't know if you really pay attention to all that, but I just find that really fascinating.
It's quite interesting when you do hear these people. You know, they do tend to talk about. I don't know if crime, perhaps, if you're talking about more the literary fiction type
Hmm.
writers, maybe crime essentially starts off. It seems to be something they perhaps read them when they're a little bit younger, maybe,
Hmm.
and perhaps they needed genre as a bit of a support mechanism.
Hmm.
Perhaps so they gravitate towards the crime. Then maybe as they develop their skills, they could move away from needing that criminal activity or mystery to act
Hmm.
as a bit of a crutch for them, and then moved into more literary type, contemporary type works, perhaps.
Maybe
Um,
I don't know, but
maybe there's an easier crossover, perhaps, say between that and there's a bit of a shorter gap between that and say science fiction or horror. Perhaps
yeah.
maybe that's why they read that and found inspiration from that.
Yeah, that's definitely possible. I mean, I you know, I don't know, but I've found that really really
Mm.
fascinating over the years as I've kind of read stuff. 'Cause, you know, I like to read like interviews and watch
Mm.
them in my spare time. Um, but yeah, no, it's quite fascinating, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure that crime ever. I don't, despite how hard edged some of it could be, I don't think crime perhaps ever had the bad reputation that say horror had, for example. So maybe that's why it's endured a little bit, perhaps from some of the more literary writers, or more people have perhaps read it, perhaps.
Well, yeah, you
Um,
know, it's funny you say that. I do think like hard boiled crime book can be a type of horror, which is,
mm,
you know, why I think something like A Hot Dose of Hell works. You know,
mm,
I do think when you combine kind of like noir and horror, you can do good stuff with that.
mm, absolutely, yeah. Just the yeah, go back to like The Killer Inside Me. That's essentially a. I mean, you could compare that to a slasher film, couldn't you? In some
Yeah,
ways, or almost like the character. Is it Lou, the sheriff
yeah.
name? Almost like
I think he's a
um,
deputy.
yeah, like a Michael Myers type character, almost just that blank lack of humanity, but then this mask of, oh, I'm an affable, kind of nice, inoffensive sort of guy, but underneath it all, he's as bad as cold as Michael Myers. So you've got that kind of horror element to it, haven't you, with some of the crime?
Yeah, no, like one of my favorite sequences in The Killer Inside Me is when he's in the jail cell with the guy and he's basically like, you know, and he basically like reveals his
Yeah.
true self to this guy, who's this poor guy who's just terrified at this point, and then he ends
Yeah.
up killing him.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah. Have you seen the film at all with Casey Affleck?
Yeah, I did. It was a pretty good adaptation, actually. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I need to. I can't remember an awful lot about it. I don't think I've seen the whole thing all the way through. I think it was one of those films that I kind of come in halfway.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to have to watch it again now that I've read the book and sort of see what it's like compared to the book.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the ending kind of threw me off as well. I was like, oh wow, okay, I didn't know that. So okay, is he just like paranoid at this point, or is like, oh, she's still alive? Oh, that's okay.
Yeah. Is this happening, or is he?
Has he lost his marbles? No.
I think you'd like if you have that kind of feeling in terms of what's happening, that kind of what's really going on with this cat. Is this real? Is he lost it? Definitely check out one of Ted Lewis's novels called GBH. Then that's one about a man's descent essentially into his world just crumbling around him as well. Very, very grim.
I'll have to read that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know Get Carter is a classic crime movie. I didn't know. There's some stuff I've like I didn't know The Exorcist was a book before I saw it. I just knew it as the movie.
Yeah. That's sometimes a good way of finding books, though.
That's true.
When you actually find that, there's a novel there, and especially when it's a good adaptation, but there's enough left over from the book to sort of add to the film, and kind of vice versa in a way. They're perfectly complementary as opposed to being a straight adaptation, so to speak.
Yeah, no, that's the interesting thing about something like L.A. Confidential, because I remember when I read the book, I was like, whoa, like there's a lot more here that they left out, and I mean, I think it still works, but it's kind of, it was interesting.
Yeah. Have you seen going kind of back to Mark Wahlberg again? Have you seen the film Shooter?
Yes.
Mark Wahlberg?
Yeah.
Have you read it?
That's one of my. It's kind of one of my guilty pleasure movies in a sense. I don't know if not that it's like bad or anything. It's a good movie, but it's like it's one I like to watch. To like if I need just something like to watch and have a good time with, like that's a good one. I haven't read the book.
Saturday night film. Yeah, definitely. That's another example, I think, of a good. Mark Wahlberg is definitely not Bob Lee Swagger, the character.
Mm-hmm.
He is nowhere near the right actor to play Bob Lee Swagger, but he does a very good job in the film. The film itself is really good. But definitely check out the books by Stephen Hunter and the whole series of Bob Lee Swagger novels, and also the side shoot novels about Bob Lee's father. Excellent books, a really good series of books, that span years. And I think go from across the course of the series. I think you go from 1950s sort of through to the modern, through to Vietnam into the modern day era as well. So they're a good series to check out.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of like war movies. So another kind of adjacent to it. It's the Tom Berenger. I think it's literally called Sniper. I think it is called Sniper. I kind of have a soft spot for that movie as well.
Yeah. Yeah, is that Tom Berenger and Billy Zane, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
He one's like the competition shooter or something, or work. Yeah, that's a good film.
Yeah, no. I enjoy a lot of action cinema, if you will. When it's done well, anyway. I know there's a lot of bad stuff out there.
Yeah. Have you seen The Raid?
I have, Gareth Evans. Both Raid 1 and 2. They're both.
Yeah. What a film.
Oh man. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That well said. Yeah. What a movie. What movies indeed.
Yeah. That's a go-to.
I'll just put it this way. I'm glad that those and John Wick exist, because I think those kind of saved action movies. Because man, there was a lot of bad ones.
Yeah. For a while. And I think as well it's I think they both saved action movies, but they also kind of they've raised the bar so high now that because you've got all the actors from The Raid, highly accomplished martial artists themselves. You got Keanu Reeves, who became a highly accomplished martial artist in order to do all the stunts, supported by a load of other highly accomplished martial artists and stuntsmen. And then when you then compare that to your standard action film, where they're having to do lots of different cuts to hide the fact that it's not the actor doing those stunts, and to hide the stuntman, you're like, it becomes glaringly apparent then, doesn't it, that the difference in skill levels, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I do like when it's the actor doing the stunts. I like that commitment to the role, if you will. It can be really well done when done well, and also you're like, how did they do that and not get like seriously injured? Though I will say there were parts of I don't know if you watched John Wick, I guess it's the final chapter, but it's like John Wick 4. There were some parts I was like, okay, you're kind of overextending the bit there.
Was that I felt that way, the scene on the stairs.
Oh yeah.
I was like, oh, I can't say, oh, come on.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a bit too long, but what are you gonna do? When you're saying that about an action movie, you're like, oh man, they're doing something wrong.
I thought 3 was very good. I think I'm not sure which order I put them in, but 3's up there. I really enjoyed number 3 overall. John Wick film.
Yeah, that is a good one. Yeah, I like that one. It's really well paced.
Yeah, I think that's my sort of favorite. Like you said, a bit of a go-to film that you just put on when you just want a good time with something.
I also like the Bourne films. I think I saw you mention this in like a spy film stream.
Yes, yeah,
you did with Aaron. Yes. I'm surprised you said Supremacy. I'm more Ultimatum. I love Ultimatum.
Right,
that's probably my favorite one.
Yeah, I think that scene in the I think it's Waterloo train station in Ultimatum is fantastic.
Yeah,
that I almost wish that scene was put into Supremacy.
Yeah,
and that would be the perfect film for me then, because but yeah, I thought that was a great scene.
I felt in Supremacy he hadn't quite like Greengrass, the director. I felt like he hadn't quite like perfected the kind of, I don't want to call it shaky cam. It is kind of shaky cam, but it isn't, because like you could tell the actors are doing the stunts, but
yeah,
there was a fight scene in Supremacy where he's fighting the dude in his house. It looks really bad, actually.
Yeah, I think looking back on that is a bit too much.
And then Ultimatum, that big fight he has like in the middle of the movie, I'm like, that's amazing,
Yeah,
even though it is really quickly cut and edited.
Yeah, I sort of I can kind of, my mileage for that kind of quick cutting varies sometimes. I liked the fight in the second one in Supremacy, when he's fighting the other assassin in his house. When it slowed down a little bit and he actually, like, let's just let it happen.
Yeah,
you can see him scuffling and choking and grappling for their lives. So yeah, Greengrass definitely had that sort of almost documentarian feel, wasn't it? As if like I'm just following these guys around with a camera. What I catch, I catch.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more of a fan of the trilogy than the other two movies. You can't like Jason Bourne was pretty good, but that original trilogy is really good. That was a childhood film. My dad, when it was funny when I first saw it, my dad's like, "Hey," is like, "Here's son, here's this movie about this guy who's lost his memory." I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome." Yeah,
it's I think I mentioned it on the stream about the spy films. It's quite interesting how the kind of modern sort of take on Jason Bourne changed because of the environment, and obviously like things like the war on terror and the questions that he had about the legitimacies of various wars and invasions. Because from what I can remember of the original novel, and there was an adaptation in the 80s, I think, with Richard Chamberlain playing Jason Bourne. And the premise of that was essentially that he thought he was a bad guy who turned out to be a good guy. So he thought he was an assassin. Then I'm actually a CIA agent. So I'm actually a good guy. Whereas the Bourne films that Greengrass did, certainly, and the Matt Damon films kind of reversed that almost, where he thought he was a good guy, but then no, actually, I'm one of the bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of very much that take. So very much like a post sort of 9/11 type film, wasn't it? In attitudes, I think towards the intelligence services and the military, I think to a degree.
Yeah, it's interesting how, because I read the first three. I read the first three original Ludlum Born
Mm,
books, and it's quite interesting the differences. Because like I mean, aside from the basic premise, it's almost a different take on the story. Really, if you think
mm,
about it. Because like the books are very like Cold War.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
like John le Carre levels, but like kind of
Mm,
close.
mm. Yeah, I think very much that time, weren't they, of that kind of almost, I suppose, like the 80s type
Yeah,
blockbuster.
like Carlos the Jackal is the big villain, and who was a
Yeah,
real guy.
yeah, yeah,
But that was weird. I remember going like, "Oh, that's a real guy." Well, that's weird.
yeah, yeah. There's have you seen the film called The Assignment at all?
No, I haven't
With
seen that one.
that's who's in that? Aidan Quinn, Ben Kingsley, and that's a kind of, it's one of these films I'm pretty sure is fictional, but it's kind of like this is based on a true story
Uh huh.
type films, but I don't think it was. And it's essentially about a guy who is he's recruited into a joint, I think it's a joint Mossad CIA operation, because he bears a very strong resemblance to Carlos the Jackal.
Oh,
So they're going to kind of train him up to imitate Carlos, to sort of do this kind of side task that's then going to basically discredit him, so that then the real Carlos gets betrayed by his terrorist allies. I think that's the gist of it.
interesting.
That's
I'll
that's
have to
quite a
find
good,
that.
yeah, it's quite a good little film. That for one that kind of fell under the radar a little bit. I don't think it was. I don't think it's. I don't even know if it's released at the cinema. Um,
Yeah, British films are interesting because like I've seen a couple of them that just kind of got released on like made for television. I've seen a couple. I can't remember one, but at the moment, but like there's some I've seen. I'm like, you could have released this in theaters. This looks a
yeah,
lot better than our made for TV films, which are just, I don't want to get started on that, but they exist.
I don't know. I think you've had a couple of good ones. Some
Well,
good
okay, yeah.
pop up. You know.
I'm sure there are. I haven't I don't recall any off the top of my head at the moment.
So I think there was one. I'm pretty sure it was a TV one, made for TV, or maybe even maybe a two-part like miniseries. Traffic. I think that was
Oh.
that was. I think it was almost like a kind of, not the original one, not with. It was still about drugs, but I think there was an element where it's set in
Oh, yeah,
Afghanistan.
I was about to say I've heard of the
Um,
movie. I haven't heard. I didn't know it was a show as well. I'll have to
yeah, I'm
find
pretty
that.
sure there was a show. It's not a well-known one. There's another one with who's in it? Who's in it? Um, Elias Koteas, is it the
Mm,
actor?
I know who you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's in it. He's in this version that I'm talking about. I think he plays a DEA agent who's trying to sort of have some influence on the drug trafficking channels out of Afghanistan, if I remember rightly. And then there's another story back with it, I think, to do with his son and his wife
Mm.
back home. So I remember that being pretty good, as something that I just found one day on TV. Just scrolling through.
Isn't that fun when you like find like a movie or something and you're just like, I'll watch it,
Yeah,
and it turns out really good.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's sort of, there was I remember one I saw like that with Val Kilmer called The Salton Sea.
Mm. I haven't heard of
And that,
this.
yeah, that's a really good little film, that. And it's, I
Though
think that was one, just come across it. I think I was probably about 20 minutes into it. So I had to then go back and try and watch it again and catch the first 20 minutes to put it all together. But it was good, really
I
good.
think my favorite like Val Kilmer guilty pleasure movie. Again, I say guilty pleasure. It's not like it's a bad movie or anything. But did you see the Saint film that he did in the '90s?
I'm sure I've seen it. I'm sure I've seen it, but I can't remember an awful lot about it.
Oh yeah,
That's what
I loved that when I was a kid. I was like, this is
yeah,
great. Now I think Tombstone and Heat are better films, but
yeah.
yeah.
yeah, Heat's one of my favorites, all-time favorites. That. Have you seen the apparently the news that about the sequel, the casting for that, or the
Yeah,
late?
I know they turned it. There's like I know there's a book they put out. I'm like,
Mm,
I was
mm,
so hesitant because I'm like, I think Heat is a brilliant film. I don't really think
mhm.
you need to add too much to it, but Michael Mann was involved, so I don't know. I don't know.
Um, I wasn't. I was disappointed in the book. I
Oh
have to
man.
admit, because I love the film so much. I was a bit disappointed in the book.
Oh
I'll
man.
say, but again, other people have liked it, so it's one of those.
I was just
I didn't think it went the right direction.
I
That's
was
all I'm going
just
to
I was just
say on that. I
shaking
don't
my
want to
head like,
spoil it.
why? You don't need to add any more to Heat
No,
that was there already.
that's it. It's done. Yeah, it's done. Leave it. It's perfect as it is. That's it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Now if it gets made, we'll see.
Yeah, I think who were they talking about? DiCaprio and um, I think Adam Driver was the last one that I saw. DiCaprio and Adam
Yeah.
Driver, two cast members that they were talking about. Whether they're doing it or not, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I've heard that as well, and I don't know. I really don't think there's much to add to Heat
No.
personally, but I don't know.
I think it'll be one of those films where I don't know. I don't want to be pessimistic, but I've been stung too many times with these kind of reboots and new versions and updates and so on. And I think it'll be one that you'll go and watch and then immediately come back home, put the original on, just to kind of like cleanse yourself
Hmm.
of what you've seen.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, that's funny because Aaron invited me to a stream for crime films because I offered him. I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, if you ever do like favorite crime films, I'll come on for that. And he's like, hey,
Yeah.
we'll do it. And I'm like, awesome. So
Yeah, I think I'm not sure when he's due because I've been invited onto that as well, and Heat's going to be one of my picks. Surprise, no
yeah,
surprises
no,
there.
I know.
So,
That's what I've been stuck on. I'm like, oh Lord, what am I gonna pick? Because I don't want to pick like the obvious ones that some other people might pick. So we'll see.
man, just do it and have a couple in reserve, because there's so many to choose from. If you're anything like me, I had to move. Get Carter's one of my all-time favorite crime films. I had to move that into the adaptation stream that we did, just
Hmm.
so I've got room for the other crime films that I want to talk about. So
Yeah, it's
yeah, do it.
another really good Michael Mann crime film is Collateral. I really love that film.
Mm, mm.
I've heard a lot of people really like Thief. I haven't seen that one yet.
I've seen Thief is very good. That's again that was something I watched years and years ago, and I could probably do with watching that again because I think I'd appreciate it more now than I perhaps did when I
Hmm.
first watched it. You seen Manhunter?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I really like that film, and I think William Peterson's performance in that as Will Graham is like
yeah.
fantastic.
I think Red Dragon is one of the best like crime procedurals I've ever
Mm,
read. So
mm.
pretty good adaptation. In the one they did with Anthony Hopkins wasn't bad either. But
Yeah, I think that was probably a bit more of a faithful adaptation. I
yeah,
think to the novel. I think Manhunter definitely had Michael Mann's style to it,
yeah.
um, and was very unique in its own way. I think.
Brian Cox did a good job as Lecter. I
Yeah,
thought he did good.
yeah, yeah. I thought he was a bit more.
More of a
I,
jerk.
yeah. I found him a lot more. I found him a lot more sinister in some ways than um, Anthony Hopkins's
Yeah.
performance to a degree. There was just something about that, like you say. Yeah, he's a bit more of an ass and a bit more sort of
I
that
feel
kind of
like with Brian
sneering
Cox's
sort.
version, he can like disarm you in
Mm.
a sense. Like with Hopkins, you're kind of like, there's something kind of wrong there.
Yeah, you're a bit off. You're a little bit off anyway. You're a bit like, yeah. I think Brian Cox's version would be a little bit more. And I think because also I think the physical power of Brian Cox, he seems to, you think he'd just tear you apart.
Yeah.
He would have that kind of psychopathic strength almost to sort of tear you apart a bit. So
I don't know how much YouTube you watch, but there have been these ads recently of Uber Eats, and it's
Mm.
Brian Cox just going in a college and just being the most obnoxious person possible and abusing loopholes at this college so he can get free Uber Eats. It's fantastic. I love
Is he
him.
sort of is he riffing on the Logan Roy character from
A
Succession
little
or
bit,
something?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He's good, Brian Cox. Do like his
He's
stuff.
also good in the Bourne movies too. That's where I first
Yes,
knew of him.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's some great supporting actors in those Bourne movies. You know, you've
Mm-hmm.
got Brian Cox, you've got Chris Cooper
Mm-hmm.
as well from the first ones. You know, playing these kind of slightly shady, shifty CIA bosses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they flesh it out. You know, fantastic. It's you know in a fantastic way, especially Chris Cooper in the first film. Is there a scene where they're sat in a canteen and I think someone asks him like, you know, what have you been up to? And he's like, just kind of swerves the question completely.
Yeah.
You know, in this kind of like really politician sort of way of like, you know, what you're trying to do, get me into a hearing or something like that.
Yeah, no,
Really,
yeah. One of my
he's,
favorite scenes of the movie is their him and Bourne's confrontation at the end of the movie. I really like
mm,
that one.
mm,
Um,
yeah, he's good in. Chris Cooper's really good in a film called Lone Star. You
mm,
seen that one?
I've not seen this.
That's a really good film. Quite again, a very, in some ways, a very quiet kind of. I think it's set in Texas, I believe. I'm sure it's set around that sort of area. So very much a kind of quiet kind of country noir almost about a
You know what?
family scene.
Actually, now that you mention it, I think I might have heard of it. Let me see.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh yeah, I think I've heard of this.
yeah,
I'll have to
yeah.
watch that.
Definitely worth a watch. That's a pretty good film. Pretty good film. Quite a quite an unusual sort of film in a way.
Yeah, I think it's um yeah, like one of my favorite films is No Country for Old Men,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
also takes place in Texas.
yeah.
I mean, I'm from Oklahoma, hence the name. But it's interesting because you could kind of play with the Western genre as well in that.
Hmm. Have
So
you read the book as well?
yes, yeah,
Yeah, yes.
there's another
I
one
think
that's
the
very stripped back.
yes,
I
yeah.
often tell people to read that first if they want to try McCarthy because he's
It's
not
probably
always
the
like
most
that.
accessible sort of one, isn't it, of
Yeah.
his books? Definitely. Um,
I also
yeah,
get
that's the
sad because it made me wish that he wrote more hard boiled stuff because like he
mm,
has kind of a if you read his stuff he has a very uh like hard boiled look at the world.
yeah,
Also been
definitely.
very influential in crime fiction as well.
Yeah,
Um,
I absolutely has. I think you can, and I think sometimes in horror fiction as well, even,
yeah.
when people talk about Blood Meridian or
hmm
The Road, um, I think the Road's one of my favorite books actually. Just to, to certainly, I won't say I read it cover to cover, but I often dip back into that, at least once a year, um, just to look at the themes of sort of fatherhood that are in
hmm
there and that whole relationship between the father and son. It's absolutely
Yeah.
heartbreaking. So I think that book, for all its grimness, has got such a sense of hope in a way to it.
Yeah,
Very very good book.
it was my first one, so I have a real
Mm.
soft spot for it.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah,
remember the movie came out when I was a kid, and I'm like, that looks interesting. That looked
mm.
real dirty. And I ended up picking
Yeah,
up the book, and I was like,
yeah,
what is this?
yeah.
But yeah, I'm the same way. I really love that kind of. I actually recently put out a comic adaptation of it, which is really
Mm.
good, very beautifully illustrated.
Yeah, I'd seen some of the screenshots of the adaptation. I'll keep an eye out for that one. I'm not sure if I'll get around to buying it, but yeah, I thought
It was
beautiful
also
piece of
interesting reading it because I saw the movie with Viggo Mortensen in it, and I always think of
mm,
that when I think of the book.
mm,
It was interesting the differences that because he's a bit closer to how McCarthy describes the book, you know,
mm.
unlike the movie where they take a little license at times.
Yeah,
Where, I mean, the movie's
yeah,
pretty close to the book from what I remember, but there's some parts that they kind of remixed a little bit.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's fairly. close. I'm trying to remember the bits that changed. Or I mean, what's your take on the end
On the
of
ending,
both the book and the film? You know, do you think? I mean, there's that talk of like, who were these this other family, so to speak? Did the family even exist? That kind of
I haven't heard that. I mean, really,
no.
where my kind of questioning comes in is, are they the good guys, as he likes to
Mm,
say?
mm,
Um, I lean on yes because they have a dog and
hmm.
kids, so maybe, but I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, there's lots of there's quite a few theories, isn't there, about the whole if you look at the kids, just how distrustful they look.
Hmm.
So it's that bit of, oh, are they? So I'm going to keep with the sort of positive, but I've also seen a couple of theories of like, yeah, that they don't actually exist. It's the boy imagining
I've never heard that actually.
these things. I've not seen that one on there. Just that idea of it's just that. But
So,
I take the literal sort of view and have the hope that yes, he's found like some good people, some good guys as well.
uh, so you like horror as well?
I do. In terms of film or books,
I
or
mean,
both.
either or.
Yeah, yeah. I probably watch more horror films. I watch some of the older ones now,
Hmm.
as opposed to I'm trying to think some modern sort of horror films that I've watched. Um, I definitely lean more towards anything before 2010, perhaps.
That
But
yeah.
that's generally for films and books anyway. And a lot of the horror, I can't say I've read an awful lot of mainstream modern horror. I tend to sort of gravitate more towards the indies at the minute. So again, Steve Stark, Hot Dose of Hell, Janelle Sheikey, the Clatterman, and
I've
Death
talked to her.
Books.
She's very nice. I want to read
Yes,
her books.
yeah, definitely check those books out by Janelle. They're really great books. Um, there's a British author, David Parkinson, who's written he's got 3 volumes of a collections of sort of short stories or novellas.
Mm.
The Tales of Terror and Torment. I've only read volume 1 so far, but if you like Hot Dose Hell, and he's got that he's some elements of very British type horror,
Mm.
but his stories range from hell to Jupiter's moon to suburban sort of horror to jungles. Really great, great collection of horror stories there. Alex Sinclair has written I would say, horror perhaps doesn't do it justice because it's quite a hallucinatory sort of,
Mm.
imagine sort of apocalypse now mixed with the beach, mixed with some horror trip, Jacob's Ladder type madness,
All right.
called Dead Orchid. That's fantastic. It's set amongst the expats and backpackers in Cambodia,
Oh,
and it's
that's
just it descent into absolute madness and chaos. So I'd say it's very much a
yeah. I've no.
horror come literary fiction come. So again, that's again where we're looking is, the best stuff is actually in the indie space at the minute, in that sort
Hmm.
of in those sort of genres
Yeah,
where
I
these
was
books
about to
are
say,
taking chances.
it's funny you mentioned backpacking. I don't know if you've ever heard of the book or the film version of this called the Ritual, which is about
Mm,
backpackers in like England. I saw the
yeah,
movie some years ago and I quite liked it. I thought it was actually one of
yeah,
the better horror films in the recent years.
yeah.
I have the book, I just haven't read it yet.
Yeah,
So
I've not read any of Adam Neville, isn't it?
yeah,
The book. Yeah, I've got him on the list to read actually, because I've sort of dipped into a couple of samples of some of his books, and some of his stuff looks really interesting.
mm-hmm.
There's one I want to read called Last Days, I think it is, which is about it's almost like a found footage style book
Mm.
about a cult that that most of its members killed themselves. There's a couple of survivors. It's about some documentary makers, I think. So
British people love folk horror. I don't know what it
mm,
is. I guess you have more room for it out in England.
I think, yeah, yeah, I
You
think,
have like wide spaces of forest.
yeah, yes. You got the forest. You've got the various legends that come with it. You've got the kind of history that comes back to it. I mean, we've got the sort of, they always talk about the kind of trilogy of English folk horror films or British folk horror films. The Wicker Man, Blood on Satan's Claw, and Witchfinder General,
Oh,
which all kind of touch on either historical or
I've only seen
myth.
The Wicker Man out of those three movies, so I
Yeah,
quite enjoy
yeah, we
it.
definitely, yeah, we do like a bit of folk horror, and I think the Ritual touches on that. And
Mm-hmm.
Adam Neville, I believe, has written a bit more folk horror more recently with Cunning Folk, I think one was, and The Reddening, I think is his other one.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I definitely need to try and read a bit more of that.
Yeah, I've been trying to read The Ritual for a few years. I just haven't gotten around to it,
Mm.
It's just there's always more stuff. But yeah,
Are you, are
oh
you somebody that buys lots of books and kind of, right, I'll get that and I'll read that one later, and then I'll
yeah,
get that one
it's
just
a
in
bad
case.
habit.
And yeah, no, it's a habit. I'm the same way. I've got a stack of books that I need to read.
Yeah, it's
Um,
like,
locked up.
but I did want to ask you a little bit about muscles. Like
Mm.
we've gotten a little bit in here, but what made you like want to write muscles?
Um, it was. I think we sort of started talking, and we got we
Yeah,
got
got
on
sidetracked.
That's good though. That's. It was off the back of there was that big sort of interest in crime
Mm,
in the 90s. So a lot of it was drawn from there. Um, and along with all the fiction, so these reissues of the Ted Lewis novels and the Richard Stark novels, um, we had two notorious gangsters called the Krays. I'm sure you
oh yeah,
would have
it's
heard of them. Ronnie and Reggie.
Tom Hardy again,
Yeah,
but Legend
yeah,
is a pretty good movie.
yeah. So one of I can't remember which brother passed away. I think it was Ronnie passed away round about that sort of time as well. And he had his funeral, and it was attended by all these ex-gangsters and various people, and it created a bit of a interest in that kind of gangster lifestyle. So as well as all the fiction, there were various documentaries and biographies being published about that, and it kind of like spurred my interest in that kind of crime scene.
Mm-hmm.
Then started watching older films again, like Get Carter was suddenly back on DVD, The Long Good Friday, all these older films. So I think that's what kind of drew me first off into crime films and crime fiction novels,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of grew from there. And Muscle kind of came out of that period because as much as Muscle's set in the modern day,
Mm-hmm.
there's only really one reference, I think, to social media, but it's very much in my mind. It's a novel of the 90s almost.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of club scene and those people that operated on the kind of fringes of organized crime.
Mm-hmm.
So our main character Frankie, he's a bouncer. He operates on the realms of sort of criminality, but he's not necessarily a full-blown criminal himself.
Mm-hmm.
But we do have those kind of crossovers, and
Like
it's not based
he
on,
does like the occasional shady thing, but he's not like a criminal.
yeah, I mean, it's there was I don't know if it's the same in the States, but certainly in the early, well, mid 90s, I suppose, at least, there was always a kind of uh, there was always an element, if you like, of the door staff, the bouncers who are on the door, kind of controlling the door, and then they controlled the drug dealers who came in to the
Mm-hmm.
premises. So they would let certain dealers in, keep certain dealers out, and maybe
Mm.
take a little bit of a cut of the dealers' proceeds, if
Mm-hmm.
you like, and beat up and batter the dealers who they weren't in their good books,
Mm-hmm.
and confiscate their drugs and so on. So there was always an element of that certainly in the 90s, and I wasn't actively involved in any of that scene, but certainly, growing up in that sort of time, going out in clubs and so on, you got to know people who were in that, or at least on
Mm-hmm.
the boundaries of that
Yeah,
kind of
I
world,
think
and
Steve
sort of
was
watching
telling
it happen.
me. I think Steve was a bouncer at one point.
Yeah, yeah, he
Um,
was. Yeah,
which is interesting. He's so friendly. But but yeah, I remember he told me he really liked that book. He said I
yeah,
would
he did.
like it.
He said some very kind things about Muscle, and he's been very very gracious about Muscle. So,
Yeah, like I was yeah, but like did you like grow up in like a hard area, or was it just something you noticed, or is it just the type of films you liked or books?
Yeah, probably a bit of everything there. I can't say, I didn't grow up in a particularly bad area or anything else like that. It was probably, I would say, just the average sort of working class type,
Mm.
working class, medium sized city sort of environment, if you
Mhm.
like. So yeah, there were scraps. Yes, there was bits of violence on the Saturday night in the pubs and clubs and so on, but
Mhm.
um, nothing full time or nothing serious, luckily, or anything else like that. There's a couple of various incidents that kind of happened on nights out or to people that I knew or things like that, but nothing. I certainly wasn't involved in any sort of full blown kind of fighting or gang type
Well,
stuff any more than anybody else my age, I suppose. Or
well, that's good, because it's funny. I grew up, I grew up in a rather middle class, suburbs area, and it's quite strange the type of stuff you don't you don't notice.
mm,
Like
yeah,
a few years ago, there was actually a shooting near my house. I guess I
mm,
wasn't at home or something. Some guy just, and it was weird because the people over there I always thought were kind of strange. I
mm.
wasn't expecting anything like that. So yeah,
Right. So what was this? Was this like a domestic incident? Was
yeah,
it that
I
kind of got
think
out of
so.
hand? And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and
yes,
the guy basically like I guess he did a suicide by cop because he was like going for a gun. And they shot him. So yeah, it was
right.
bad.
Ooh, it's like yeah, it's uh, that kind of takes you back to the point that you made earlier about some crime being almost like horror, because
Hmm.
what's more horrific than something like that happening to you, or
Yeah,
just
exactly. Yeah.
something next door, when you don't actually know what's
Yeah,
happening.
or like people I went to high school with who I ended up learning were like, like into like drug dealing and stuff. I was like, oh man,
Mm,
it's like the only aside from that, the only thing that happened was a house blew up due to like a gas leak like years ago. Like that was the only. It wasn't near me, but I heard the boom when I was
yeah.
one night. It was yeah. Anyway, but yeah.
I mean, that's not something you can prepare for, is it? If
No.
if the house next door goes up on a gas main or something like that, it's like, God, what do you do with that?
Yeah, yeah, but I think with like crime, it's yeah, it's I mean, yeah, in my mind, I think crime is horrific.
Mm,
It should be horrific.
mm. Yeah, yeah. I think
Maybe not always. I know there's some people who get into it because of desperation.
mm,
But
yeah. I think as long as you write about it, and I prefer fiction that does write about it honestly
mhm,
in these things. I'm not. I kind of like part of the reason I like Heat, part of the reason I like the Richard Stark novels. There is an element of romanticizing the criminal to
mhm,
a degree. The idea that there's not one time. I think since seeing Heat, there's not been one time that I've not walked into a bank and heard that music. The scene where De Niro, and your eyes are moving around like De Niro does and everything like that.
yeah.
Thinking you're Neil McCauley walking into a bank.
I
So
mean, there are
there
horrific
is a
moments in
attraction to
Heat for
that, isn't
sure.
there? Yeah, there's definitely those kind of moments where it is almost seen as a wouldn't it be cool if we could rob banks like these guys do? But there's also that brutality and say in that same scene, when they bash those guards in the
Uh huh.
bank,
Yeah.
it's like those guys, they're basically dying now of fractured skulls and brain damage. They have been battered senseless. It's like
Hmm.
that is, that's
Or
it
when they
takes
like
the
shoot the deaf guys because the one dude
yeah,
was like he was looking
yeah,
at me weird. He's like, no, he
yeah,
wasn't.
yeah. Wayne Grode loses it or something. It's
Yeah, dude's
yeah.
just a
So
general.
it has that side of it as well. I think, as well as the element of, well, that's pretty cool. He's
I think the irony with something like Heat is that the whole reason like that whole like and it's like this whole crew of professionals like they know each other, they do jobs together, but the one
yeah,
time they bring in the
yeah,
freaking weird guy, it goes to
yeah.
hell.
That's it. Isn't it? It's almost like a perfect. character-driven film in a way, because it's all about decisions, isn't it? Like you just said there, you know, if they hadn't taken Waingro on for that job, none of that stuff would have happened. You know, none of it.
Yeah.
You know, it can all be traced back to that one decision, and that one decision that Waingro then made. And also the fact that maybe they shouldn't have tried to take him out outside a diner. Maybe should have got
probably not a good idea.
quieter to get rid of him.
Yeah, they probably. It's the little mistakes, man. Like Tom Sizemore's character keeps saying "slick," and that's how they get him.
Yeah. That Sizemore stare in the diner as well.
Yeah, the action is the juice. Love Heat.
Great film.
But yeah, going back to my point, I do find that I do think that that's kind of why stuff like, you know, as much as I like the Murder on the Orient Express, I always found that kind of more. I like to call them like prim and proper mysteries. They never really like they didn't do it for me like hard boiled stuff does.
Yeah, I think it's
nothing wrong with those, by the way. You know, very good entertainment, but you know,
they can be. I think they can be enjoyable. And I think
like Knives Out is one of my favorite concurrent movies. Yeah. So you know, that was a great movie. But you know, not generally my style though.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's one of those I very much enjoyed watching it. It's probably something I probably won't. I'm not going to watch it again. I'm certainly not going to watch it as many times as I've seen Heat.
Yeah,
but I think it's. I think there's an element of relatability with the hard boiled elements to it, because they're generally talking about everyday people 9 times out of 10. You know, it's not too much of a stretch to think of yourself being in the position that some of these characters are going to be in, potentially. You know, you're not too far away from those sort of situations, potentially. Whereas maybe some of the, I'm quite a way away from being what's his name? Is it Benoit Blanc from Knives Out? You know, I'm quite a distance away from that character. Whereas I'm maybe not too far away from a Tom Sizemore character from Heat. You know, in terms of reality and expectation and so on. So
it's I agree with that. It's which again, like I said, nothing wrong with those. I know there's a lot of people who love those style of movies. I mean, I love Sherlock Holmes as much as the next guy. Though I feel like Sherlock Holmes is kind of weird. I don't think Sherlock Holmes is hard boiled, but like I don't know if he's like prim and like proper either. It's kind of a weird intersection, if you will. I don't know if you've read any of the Sherlock books or seen any of the adaptations. I don't know how you wouldn't have though, if you're British and all. But.
Yeah, I can remember listening to I can certainly remember listening to, I think it was Hound of the Baskervilles when I was younger on like we used to get the old tapes.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
Tapes and as audio books and so on, and watching some of the old adaptations back then and enjoying those. And I know what you mean, because there's almost a gothic sort of dark feel to some of Sherlock Holmes' stuff. And his relationship with Moriarty, that kind of foil. There is an element of darkness there, I think, to it. Does take it away from the normal cozy type mystery, even though it's got a lot of those elements to it. You know, the clever detection, the sort of clever solutions to the crimes and so on.
Yeah, I like what you said. It's kind of like there is, like, you could probably run into more people and, well, I don't know. You'd have to be pretty deep in a criminal situation to run into a James Ellroy character, but you definitely could run into like a Dennis Lehane character or
yeah. You could absolutely. I'm pretty sure that I've never been to Boston, but I'm pretty sure that you could probably walk into a bar in Boston and meet some of the characters that you are being described in The Drop, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
Or something like that. You know, those kind of like down to earth, working class guys. I think you could probably meet characters from a James Ellroy novel if you perhaps went into the corridors of Power of Washington, maybe. I think
Probably, yeah.
maybe that's too far of a stretch, or even sort of back here in the UK, those kind of individuals, or certainly in terms of their outlook on life.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of view, again, noir as kind of a type of urban fiction, if you will.
Mm, mm,
Which,
yeah,
I can't say I relate too much to. I mean, I live in an urban area, but, I'm not like I don't live in like the
yeah,
inner city or anything. I live in the
yeah,
suburbs. There's
yeah,
been good suburban noir over the years.
yeah. I
There
mean,
needs to be a
as
rekindling of that.
we talk about, you say it's more of an urban thing. Have you read any other kind of like country noir, like Daniel
Oh,
Woodrow?
I haven't read him. I've read like Joe Lansdale
Mm,
and
mm,
S.A. Cosby is more recent example.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Lansdale's great. I
oh
mean,
yeah, he's fantastic.
love his work. Cold
I
in July. I was talking about that on the stream, the last stream we did about adaptations.
Yeah, I haven't
Have you
seen
read
that.
that
I have a
one?
friend who really loves that movie. I'm like, I kind of,
Mm.
I kind of want to read the book before I see the movie, but I don't know. I've heard
Yes.
the
Yeah.
movie's really good too, so I don't know.
What would I say do first on that? Um, God, they're both very, very good. But I think, like we said earlier, they're both complementary.
Hmm.
I think the film's a very good adaptation, but it does miss a fair chunk of not necessarily events, but just thematic type,
Mm.
the dynamics between the characters. So I think whichever way you do it, you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I feel the
Whichever
same
way
way about
round
like
you.
the Happen Leonard series.
Mm,
I don't know if you ever watched that. It got canceled,
I,
unfortunately, which really
yeah.
sucks because man, Omar played Leonard, and it was
Oh yeah.
great.
Yeah.
James Purefoy played Hap, and like that dude's as British as they come, but his Hick accent was amazing. So
Right.
great
I maybe
show.
I I watched the first season of it and I didn't like it, and I caught a little bit of the second one, um, and I just couldn't get with it. And I think that's because I really love the book Mucho Mojo.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
one of my favorite Lansdale novels, and for whatever reason,
Mucho
I've got a
Mojo is
very
my favorite as well so far. That's
brilliant. I've got a very specific vision of that story
hmm
and those characters in my head, I think, and that just didn't quite match. And I don't know why. I might give it another go because I think it's on. I think we can access at least seasons 2 and 3. I think at the moment over here, so I might actually give it another go and just see how I feel about it now.
I was gonna say I thought the second season and the second book for that matter is definitely my favorite. I thought it was really
Yeah,
I thought it was like the perfect like melding of like humor and
yeah,
heart and also like this is really messed up.
yes, yeah, yeah. It was. I think that was the Mucho Mojo. Yeah, I think that was the first Lansdale book that I'd read.
Yeah.
And again, going back to what I was talking about earlier about that kind of interesting crime fiction.
Yeah.
So I bought that in 1996, and that was in a mainstream. That was in a Waterstones bookshop
Mm,
in
mm.
the UK, and it was Mucho Mojo. It was actually on the shelf with contemporary fiction. It
Really?
wasn't in crime. Yeah, yeah. And I remember just seeing it and seeing the name, and I thought, hang on, didn't he write horror? Picked it up, looked at the back, thought, I'll give this a go, and just loved it.
Yeah, it's yeah, I like Lansdale's style. He's able to.
Mm,
Funnily enough, I was reading Jim Thompson, and there's kind of a similar kind of like there's this kind of like weird oddball humor in this
yeah,
otherwise really dark situation, and you're like, oh, this.
yeah.
Also, they get like Hicks very well.
Yeah, Lansdale writes a lot of he writes a lot in first person, and
Mm,
he's not afraid to just be plain speaking, let
hmm.
his characters talk in a normal way. He's not afraid of doing that, and I think that gives his work so much more sort of power, to the way he describes it, and also just the observations. Like you said, you go from absolute horror 1 minute to kind of like almost like a bit of a sick laugh the next sentence, and then back to horror again.
Yeah, like a few years ago, I read his oh man, it's The Thicket. Yeah, it's his western he
Mm.
did, which is kind of like his oddball take on like True Grit.
All right, yeah,
Has
I've
a
not read that one.
has a dwarf in it who's like a bounty hunter, and he's just like, I'm not taking crap from anybody, and it's fantastic. It's really good.
Are they adapting that with Peter
They
Dinklage?
did, yeah, and it's
Oh, they
funny
have
because
done
that's
it.
who I saw when I read the, and I actually mentioned that on Twitter, and Joe Lansdale was kind enough to go like, that's that's what I saw too, and he loved the book, so he adapted. I'm like, that's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, he's done some great short fiction as well, Lansdale.
Yeah, I need to dive more into Lansdale. My friend, one of my friends, is telling me to read Edge of Dark Water, which is one of
Yeah,
his
yeah,
books.
yeah. I think any of his, I'd say absolutely read Cold in July.
Hmm.
Um, check out the Drive-In as well
That's his
if you
horror one,
can.
isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, that's out there. That's great. That's again another one of my favourites of his. Just the bizarreness of that story. So fantastic read.
Yeah, it's
Um,
oh
yeah, and have a look at talk about the country noir. Have a
uh-huh.
look for Daniel Woodruff if you can
Yeah, I've
find
heard
any of
his
it.
Winter's is it Winter Bone or is it Winter's Bone? I've heard that one's really good.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good novel. Tomato Red's pretty good as well. That's
Mm.
another good one of his. Um, what's the other ones that he's written? He's got a decent collection of short stories. I think what's that one called? I think the Outlaw album. I think that one
Oh,
is. That's pretty good. And I've got it. I've not started it yet though. He's written a Civil War novel, which is who's it follow? It follows a group of okay, it's the right way around. Bushwhackers from like the
oh,
Confederacy militia.
oh, okay.
I think I'm trying to remember if it's set
It's kind of
after or
it's kind of like James Lee Burke. That's another guy I'd love to try at some point.
Mm,
What's interesting about crime books is that like they have a lot. There's a lot of them that have these like long running series. You know, like Happen Leonard is one
mm.
of them, and um,
Yeah, James Lee Burke, the Robber Show
yeah.
novels. He's been going for about there must be at least 30 of them by
So he
now.
does have a couple like standalone or other
Yeah,
books he's done. So yeah,
yeah.
I know he's really good. I want to try him at some point as well.
Mm. Yeah, I've read one of the Billy. I was gonna say no, Billy Bob Holland. I think it is novels. I think it was Bitterroot. I think it was called, which is set in Missouri. I
Oh,
think. Um,
I've not heard of this, but I know what you're talking about, like Missouri.
that's um, that's a good one. I think I've read a couple of the Robber Show novels, but not many of his books at all. Maybe
Yeah, or
two,
like in the
three.
UK, there's Ian Rankin's stuff.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Rankins. I read a lot of his. I remember doing a lot of his earlier Rebus novels,
Hmm. Oh,
and then I just think I hit sort of series fatigue.
oh yeah,
You just
it
read a bit
happens
too
to us
many of
all.
them. Yeah, and I sort of I've not read a ranking since I don't know the late '90s, maybe early 2000s, perhaps.
Yeah, one of my friends told me to check out his book Black and Blue, I think, which is about like a English serial killer. I'm like, oh, that's
Mm,
interesting. Yeah, I'll
mm.
have to find that. But
Yeah, it's definitely worth a. His earlier Rebus ones are very good, and the series that they've just done on BBC,
mhm.
um, an adaptation. I'm not sure how close it is to any of the novels, or if it's a bit of a mix mash of various ones. But that was pretty good. Not a bad little series, six part series on BBC. I think it's on Netflix now.
Yeah,
That's
you
pretty
guys
good.
in England, you like those brisk like 6 episode
Yeah,
seasons.
yeah, yeah. It's not. Yeah, we don't like these big. It's very much an American thing, isn't it? Like a 22 episode season of
Uh-huh.
of a show or something like that. Yeah, we're
I
done
was
in
about,
about 12 at the most, I think, over
I was
it.
about to say I don't know if we really do that much anymore, but yeah, we love that for some reason in America.
Yeah.
Um, though I remember when I watched like Sherlock, it was a pain in the ass waiting for like 2 years for the 6 episodes, or was it three? I don't even remember. No, but yeah, no, it's yeah, I really yeah, I mean, and there's also stuff like the Spencer books, which are like 50 books. I'm like,
Mm,
that's ridiculous. I don't
yeah.
know. But what's nice about some of this crime books is that you mentioned this earlier. You can kind of skip around and
Yeah.
read them.
Yeah. You can jump about in some of them and sort of move. I think Nick Horvath's a fan of the Spencer novels. I'm pretty sure he's
Yeah,
mentioned
I've
that.
heard him mention. I've heard him mention. Robert B. Parker's one of his favorite writers. So that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. Have you read much Andrew Vax at all?
I haven't, but I know of him. He's the dude with the eye patch, right?
That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're very good books. Pretty dark subject material.
Yeah, I know he was
So
very
yeah,
passionate about like ending like child abuse.
yes, yeah, and I think to his credit as well, I think in the interviews, if you ever read any of his interviews, he's always said that he was never really about the writing; it was always about this particular point that he wanted to make, and that's why he writes. So yeah, he did a lot of work himself, didn't he, in that sort of field, I believe. So
Yeah, I definitely have my work cut out for me in terms of like hard boiled crime to read before
yeah.
too long.
There's enough to go around, and there's enough out there that to sort of catch up on, and it's just like you said, it's trying to find it now because I certainly find a lot more now via either secondhand bookstores or again you just have these really good finds in sort of charity shops.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, somebody's donated a series of books or something like that. But yeah, Amazon you can tend to find them maybe. But yeah, it's very much a case of grab them while you can, while you find them, really.
Yeah.
And I'll worry about the space on the bookshelves later.
Yeah, no, I mean, if I can't find them in bookshops, I generally try to look on Amazon. So, it's always fun. Yeah, I'm actually thinking of going on Amazon for Black Friday because I was going to get some stuff for my parents for Christmas. So
yeah,
I hope they're not, because sometimes they'll hear me doing this show. I hope they're not listening right now.
yeah. Which I won't ask you what you're going to get them then, and we'll leave it.
But yeah, so it's yeah, there's a lot of work to go around. I'm going back to Lehane. I'm actually hoping to read his historical trilogy next year, the Coughlin books.
Yes, yeah, I've got them, and again, it was one of those. I think I found two of them in a charity shop, and then I had to buy the second one, and I'd need to sit and actually fit in reading those because I've dipped into them. They look really good, really good.
Yeah, I've heard it's kind of his attempt to do like I don't know, like a LA Quartet, or I know Underground USA, if you want to call it that. I mean, I haven't read American Tabloid yet, but I've heard it's kind of similar or it's bigger in scope than like the LA Quartet, but it's kind of a similar thing where it's this all enrapturing thing.
Yeah,
about like history.
Yeah, yeah. It's what's it? Tabloid, I think, covers sort of round about the Bay of Pigs through to the Kennedy assassination. So it's yeah, and all the repercussions from that. And I think Lehane's novel what is it? The Given Day, isn't it? That's about the Spanish flu and the Boston police strike. I think it centers around that kind of era.
Yeah,
it's certainly one of his bigger books. I think it clocks in at about 700 pages or
really?
something.
Oh,
So
man,
I'm pretty sure it's a good. I'm sort of looking at it on the shelf now. I'm pretty sure it's a good sized novel.
Yeah, I was about to say my I think my thickest Lehane book is Mystic River. That's
I need to read that one. I've not read that one. I've seen the film, enjoyed the film, and I've just not got around to reading the book.
Book's pretty close to the movie because I watched the film after I read the book, and I'm like, yeah, it's pretty good. I'm not a big Sean Penn fan, but he did good in that movie.
Yeah,
and Bacon was really good too.
Yeah, he's What's happened to
Yeah, he's
Kevin
a good
Bacon
actor.
now?
When they did you ever see The Woodsman?
No, I've not seen that one.
Oh man, it's a dark movie, but he's really good in that. I'm just like, man, if like a good like Artur director like snagged him for something, like he'd be like a great character actor. Sadly, people are like, oh yeah, Footloose. It's a fun movie. But
I think it's got a good cast, hasn't it? So you got Penn, Tim Robbins along there as well. It's pretty dependable. Again, I've not really seen an awful lot of any of them apart from Sean Penn recently. in that new DiCaprio film. I think
Oh
that's the
yeah.
last time I've seen Penn in a film.
He was very good in that movie too. Even though, again, I'm not a big fan of Sean Penn.
Mm.
I think he
What's
draw.
that film? What's that film like? I'm not seen the film. I'm not really seen that many
It's a bit.
movies.
It's really weird. It's kind of like um, it's kind of like a dystopian movie in a weird way because it's
Mm.
like it's a bunch of conspiracies and it's like very it's about this former revolutionary who was he's kind of a burnout now and his daughter gets kidnapped and he has to go find her. It's kind of a I don't want to say it's like Taken because it's not really. It's like
Mm.
I kept calling it like a left wing paranoid fantasy. Basically, it's kind of like
Okay.
the Big Lebowski a little bit.
Right. Right.
So if you like something
Ah,
like the Big Lebowski or something of that vein, you might like One Battle
yeah.
After Another.
Okay. I might give that. I might wait till streaming or something like that, and then watch it on there. I think.
Yeah, and Sean Penn plays like this real hammy, like he's like a border patrol guy. I guess he's like a
Okay.
soldier. Yeah, he's really weird. I'm actually reading the book that it's pulling from right now, and it's a much different experience than the movie. It's called
Yeah.
Vineland.
Oh, is that Pinchon? Is it?
Yes.
Pinchon. Yeah.
We also did a detective novel called Inherent Vice, which is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that book.
Right. I know they've done a film, haven't they? Was it
Mm-hmm.
Joaquin Phoenix in
Mm-hmm.
it? I've not seen that.
I haven't either, which but yeah, no, book's fun. I really like if it's a fun little. It's like an affectionate parody of like noir a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah.
While still being there is kind of that noirish sensibility, even though a lot of people are on drugs throughout that book. Nothing bad. It's just like weed.
Yeah. Have you read The Last Good Kiss by James Crumley?
No, I want to though. I know Dennis Lehane really likes that book.
Yeah, that's a bit of a kind of offbeat, slightly more offbeat type detective novel. Not quite. It's a bit meandering, really. It's a really good book, though. Really good book.
I've heard Chandler can be kind of meandering, so I mean,
Yeah, I think isn't I think Chandler famously he couldn't tie up one of his
Oh yeah,
plots. I think in The Big Sleep or something.
yeah.
Somebody said what happened to the butler or whatever, and Chandler's like, I don't know, don't know. But I think in a way, I think someone said you don't really read Chandler for the plot. You read him for the prose and the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
a bit like that. So I think he's definitely that kind of writer. So just enjoy the mood almost with it,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of it'll work itself out at the end. That's the sort of way to go with it.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have been going on for a while, and even though I've been really enjoying this conversation, I don't want to like hold you hostage. I know it's probably getting a bit late over there. Um,
Yeah.
but
No, it's been great chatting to you, Britton. It's been nice meeting you.
Yeah, it's nice meeting you as well, John. I do hope to pick up Muscle at some point, and maybe I'll have you back on here.
All right, nice.
Because generally when I do indie stuff, I like to have the author on to talk about the books.
Yeah.
So
yeah, great. I mean, hopefully I'll see you on one of Aaron's streams as well. Join in on one of them.
Yeah.
Get onto the crime one if you can.
Yeah. But before I usually end these, if you have any social media, feel free to share them.
Yeah. I'm on Twitter. What am I? Yeah, just John Davis. John Davis. I don't even know what my handle is. I'm not on it that often. Let's have a look. I can't remember myself. Badly prepared there. I don't, to be honest with you, I don't really post that much anyway. So, but yeah, you can check out Muscle though. Muscle's on Amazon if you like. If you want to read a kind of crime drama mixed with a bit of kitchen sink sort of character study as well. So yeah, have a look at that.
All right. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. And, well, John, I hope you do this again. This was a lot of fun.
Yes, thank you very much for inviting me on. I've really enjoyed chatting with you about it. And you've given me a couple of other books to look at and some other films to watch as well. So,
all right.
Well,
yeah. Hopefully until next time.
Yeah.